Hello guys, today we are going to be exercising our recently acquired knowledge of CSS and HTML. And for that, we're going to be doing this Instagram photo feed, Instagram-like photo feed with the description of the image, the title of the image, and the date where it was published. As you can see, it looks similar. It's not exactly the same because it doesn't have hashtags and some other details, but it has the main structure of any photo feed these days. If you want to go to the source of the file of this project, just go to projects.breathco.de, projects.breathco.de, and here you will find the list of projects, and what we are doing right now specifically is the super photo feed. You have the README file, and you also have the link for the demonstration. So in this case, we're going to be covering how to connect HTML and CSS. We're going to be covering the basic structure of every HTML5 website. We're going to be covering how to use the different selectors available in CSS. We're going to be working with our boxes. A box is something, it's a container in a website. So we're going to be playing with containers. We're going to call them boxes from now on. We're going to be using the Overflow CSS rule, and we're going to be using some images. Like I said, remember, the source code can be found here on projects.breathco.de, and the video tutorial can also be found there, clicking on the video link. A video link like this one, video here. It doesn't show here, but when you go there, it will be there, believe me. I just haven't uploaded. Okay, to start the project, we need to create our first folder where our website it's gonna be created. Okay, for that, I'm gonna go here to my documents, and I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call it the super photo feed. That folder, now I need to open it with Sublime. We're going to be using Sublime Text as the main development environment. If you don't have Sublime, just go to Sublime, Google Sublime 3, and the first result you will see it here, Sublime 3. Just click there and download any of these links depending on your operating system. In my case, I already downloaded it, so I'm going to open it. And now we can open the new folder that we just created, the super photo feed. Here it is. So now I'm going to click on open. Remember, you have to open the folder, not a file. If you don't open the folder, you won't see here the file structure on the left. Okay, the second thing will be to create our first file, our first HTML file. The first HTML5 file of each website has to be named index because that's the standard. Index. You have to name it like that because you can have several files, several HTML files in any website. And the only way the server has to know what website display first, it's depending on the name. So if you name it index, and sometimes you can also use default, but index is a little bit more universal. By naming it index, you're telling the browser or the server, I'm sorry, listen, this is my first page. So if I have several, just open index first, and I'll let you know with the anchors that I'll be including in my website how the flow continues. Now that we have an HTML file, Sublime knows this is an HTML file, and I can start using all the features that Sublime has. For example, if I type H, he knows that I want to do an HTML file, so he's suggesting a lot of HTML tags. Please, people, let Sublime help you. If you don't let Sublime help you, or any text editor, you're going to be fighting Sublime, because you're going to do it in a different way that he's telling you to do it or suggesting you to do it. You're going to end up having a lot of syntax errors in the website. So he already suggested HTML. So I'm gonna press the key enter, and he's gonna complete everything else because he knows that I'm doing an HTML file. So by now you already know that any HTML website has a doc type at the beginning. It's a good practice. If you don't put it, it's gonna work, but it's gonna be bad for Google, search engine optimization, and some other. You're gonna have other downsides. So please use it. Use the doc type. The next tag that you need to use is HTML. You gotta open it and close it at the end of the website. This should be the last tag always. You will never have any tags below this one. And the same with this one. This will be always the second tag. You don't have any other tags between doctime and HTML. The next tags that we have are head and title. The head represents the beginning of the website, and it's gonna tell the browser some specific information that he needs to know, but it's not gonna be displayed in the body of the document. It's gonna be displayed somewhere else. Like for example, if you're sharing a website in Facebook, Facebook grabs the information that you're sharing from the head here, from the head. Facebook wants some metadata that you put here. And whatever you put here in this part is what Facebook grabs. Like for example, the description. If I type meta, he knows that I'm doing some metadata. The metadata is what I'm talking about. It's the data that goes on the head. Some of that, like one example of that data will be the title, and it's the most used one, of course. And Google gives a lot of importance to the title. Okay, so now let's continue. Let's just put a title. My first photo feed. Well, it's not the first, it's just a photo feed. The next thing we should do is to comparing to the website that we want to develop, we know this is what we want. So now we got to start thinking about this. Remember that HTML is like the blueprint of the website. So we know that there's a difference here between this and this. You see this is white, all this area, and this is gray, all of this. So maybe this is something like the header of the website. It's not the same as the head tag. The head tag is for the browser. The header is displayed on the body, so users see the header. In HTML, the original HTML, we didn't have a header tag, but now in HTML5 you can use the header tag to give a little bit more information to the browser. Before you always have to use div, a box like this, and maybe you could use a class header just to put context on what type of div this is. But now HTML5 considers the header as a div as well, so we can use the header. So the other thing we should be including is the footer, because why not? I mean, every website should have a footer and a header. So let's add the second one, the footer. I know that my header says breathe code photo feed. So let's add that to the header. And since I know it's huge and black, I'm gonna assume this is an H1. So let's put it as an H1. H1. Remember, every website should have no more than one H1 because it's the main title, the main heading of the website. So let's see now. If you wanna know how your website is looking, you can just, because this is front end, you can just double click or open it in a browser. This is how our website is looking right now. Okay, now let's center, well, let's add the link between the CSS and the HTML first. To combine an HTML with a CSS, you gotta type the link tag. As you can see, I use Sublime to help me. So I type li, and Sublime is telling me, okay, you're trying to do an li of a list, or you're trying to insert a link tag. I choose the second one and I press enter, and it will autocomplete the rest. The only thing I will need to complete now is the the path where my style.css or my .css document is created, is saved. Since I don't have any, I'm just gonna type style.css. I'm gonna save, and now I'm gonna right click here and create a new file again, and I'm gonna name it style.css. And there we go. Now we have a style.css. This is gonna contain all my CSS rules, all of them. No CSS rules should be included in the HTML, either inline or between style tags, never. Just add a link tag in a separate CSS file. You gotta separate the CSS from the HTML. That is the best practice, and that's how you should do it. Okay, now let's test if my style is working. I'm gonna say that the body of the website, it's gonna be blue. I save and I reload from the web browser. It is blue, so I know that my style sheet is working. That's another thing you should always do. Always test your connection. It's gonna happen a lot of times that the connection is not working and you think that your code is not working, and it's not really the code, it's the connection. So test with weird colors always everything you're doing. If we want to test something else, we could also do, for example, header background yellow. So now the header should be yellow. Let's see. And now we have a yellow header. But we're starting to see some things that we need to fix here, because here on the website you see that the white stuff the white background doesn't have any margins or anything, and here we have a blue margin. So we want the header to take the whole website, and that's because websites have a margin by default. So let's tell the body that we don't want that margin that you have by default. Margin 0. Now it doesn't have a margin, but it has something on the top. If we want to know what it has on the top, we just have to right click and inspect. It's going to open here the structure of the HTML, and if we hover on these elements, it shows what we are hovering. And when I hover the H1, I know, you see the red stuff, the red container or box that goes on the top, above and below Breathcode photo feed. That's the margin. Here, you can also see it here. If I type here, if I hover here and I click on computer, it's telling me that the margin is 21.440 on the top and on the bottom. The H1 has that margin. And I don't really care about that margin because that margin, it's gonna help me have some top margin above the letters and some bottom margin above the letters. The margins that I don't want to have is the margins of the header, but of the H1 it doesn't matter because the H1 is inside the header. Okay, now let's turn the body white again, and let's turn the header white again. There it goes. Okay, now let's center the header. Okay, for that we use the Texalign center. Let's see if it's working. It's working already. Now the next thing will be to add another container to represent the rest of the feed. For that we can use the section tag, because it's very good in HTML to use sections whenever you want to divide the website in a meaningful way. Like, you gotta decide what's a section, what's a header, and what's a footer. Right now I'm saying that all my feed is going to be a section. The title at the beginning is going to be a header, and at the end I'm going to have a footer. So after having the section, let's tell the CSS that our section is going to be gray with a background gray. If you want to know the real color of this and you are using an Apple computer, you can type digital color method, and it's gonna open this tool. Well, to have this spotlight, you just gotta press command bar and it opens and closes. Then type color method, and the first option should be the tool that I'm using. Double click on it, and every time you hover on something, it's going to tell you the color of that. If you want to copy a specific color, just type on your keyboard, press Command Shift Copy. You see how, or just click on you can also click on color on the toolbar and then copy color as text, and it's the same. Okay, now I know that my color is this one. I can paste it here and save. And let's see how it's showing in my photo feed. It's not showing. So something is wrong there. Let me type something. There it is. The problem was that it didn't have any content. So if the container doesn't have any content, then it doesn't show anything. So let's tell section that we want the height of section to be 100%. That way we make sure that nothing happens. No, I mean, this problem we don't care about this problem, because at the end, we know that the content is going to be a lot bigger than the height of the current website or the height of the window. So we know that we're going to have a scroll bar, so it doesn't matter. Everything's going to be gray at the end. So that's cool. We don't need to care about that. So now the next thing will be to start adding our photo boxes. So for that, let's think about the box for a moment. This is our box. It has like a header of the box, like an image of the box, and like the description of the box. So let's do those three specific containers. First, let's do the div box class box, and then let's add inside of it our three other divs. Here they are. Now we can add a class header to this one, a class img because we know it's going to have an image inside, and a class description because we know it's going to have it's going to contain the description. I'm going to tell the CSS that all the boxes, all the class box should be blue. So background blue. Now let's see if we have our blue box here. Well, apparently it doesn't have any content. So let me add some stuff. My first photo. Here in the header, my first photo. And now let's see. Let's refresh again, and there it is. You can see my first photo there. So the other issue, it's the description. Let me copy this text and put it in the description. Let's refresh. And the image and the center. So for that, let's add an image tag like this. And then we need the URL of the image. For that, we can right click on it and then copy image address. We go back to our source code and we paste that address. If you want to make sure that you copy the right one, you can just open a new tab, paste the address there, click enter, or press enter, and you're going to see the same image that you were trying to copy. Now that I have everything there, that's how my box is looking. It's not looking good, right? Yeah, but it's going to look good at the end. I'm confident about that. So now the next thing will be the box. It's taking the whole screen, the whole width of the screen. So let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's say, for example, that our box is going to have a width of 200 pixels. Now it's too small. You see how the image is bigger than the box? That shouldn't happen. So if we don't want the image to be bigger than the box, we can just tell the image like this, like img width 100%. And we're saying that the width of the image is going to be whatever the width of the parent of the image is in 100%. Now the image is resizing with the box, but still the box is too small. So let's make the box a little bit bigger. Let's say 500. Actually, we can get to 700 or 800 because we know that the typical mobile screen is at least 800 pixels, so that's okay. Let's put it 700 because I think it's too big. Okay. And then we need to center this. To center this is super easy. We just need to say margin, no, not margin. Yeah, margin, auto. That is gonna tell the browser that I want him to set the margin automatically to the center of the page. Okay. Now, the title. This title is too small. We need to make it bigger. I'm gonna say that this is an H2 because you can have several H2s on your website. And this is a good example of an H2 because it's the title, it's like the second most important title of the website. Now that we have our H2, let's make it, let's add some, the other problem right now is that the H2 has, it's too close to the borders of the header of the box. It's too close to this container, to the borders of his container. So let's add some padding into that container. We know that this H2, it's inside of the div header. So we gotta say div dot header padding, and then we can add some padding, let's say 5 pixels. And here we have, but we still don't have a margin, a padding on the left, and we should have, I think we have it, but it's super small. Yeah, no, what happened really here is not the padding. The padding was right, but since we added an H2 tag here, we're saying now that my first photo, it's an H2. H2 have a lot of margin on the top and on the bottom. So this is the margin that you see here. If I hover, you'll see the red space again. That's the margin of the H2. And you can, I think we can also see the padding because there's like a small blue border there. Let me add some more padding into it, and we'll see if that's it. Yes. Okay, so now we have a 15 pixels padding, and we gotta tell the H2 to remove those margins because it's not looking good. So let's say inside of the div header, specifically the H2, we want margins 0. Reload, and there you go. Now we have no margins at all. On the H2, of course, we still have some space there, but that's from the padding of the parent of that H2, from the padding of the header. So it's looking better now. Now let's do the same. Let's add some padding to the description because it's not looking good. So we know that the description is in a div with a class description. So let's do the same that we did with header, but now with description, padding 15 pixels, refresh, and there we go. We have the same padding now. Now the next thing, if we go back here, the H2 is still pretty big, right? This one is smaller than this. So let's make it smaller. Font size 12, no, let's say 16 pixels. Now it's smaller than the original one. So let's put, I don't know, 20. Yeah, 20 looks good. Still, the box is also bigger than the original box. So let's make the original box smaller, our box smaller. 600 pixels maybe? Yeah, it's looking the same size. Okay. The next thing is that you know that boxes, if we add 2 boxes, or the 3, let's say we have 3 boxes, Here you have them. They are together now. So we need to put some space between the boxes. So I'm gonna say to all the boxes, like here, this is a selector for all the boxers, that I want some margin bottom, some margin top and some margin bottom, both. Let's say 20 pixels to the bottom and 20 pixels to the top. Let's refresh. Margin top and margin bottom, and there we go. 20 and 20. Maybe we need something bigger. Let's put 60 and 60, and let's see how much we have now. Oh, it's looking better. Perfect. Now the next thing will be to, let's make them white because I'm tired of the blue. So let's make them white. Refresh, and there they are. Still, you know that this box has gray space on the on top of it, and we don't have it here. That's because this box is very close to the borders of the whole website header. We need to put some padding top to the header, because remember that padding is the space that comes from inside the container, not from outside. So some padding here, it's gonna add space between the beginning of the container and whatever it's inside of it. So let's add some padding to that header. Here we have the selector. So padding top, because it's the top. And let's refresh. Still. Ah no, because I set it to the header and it was supposed to be added to the section, not to the header. Here. There we go. Here's the space, you see? Here it is. That yellow thing you see there, that's the space. Okay. It's starting to look like the Instagram that we wanted. We're missing some borders. If you pay attention here to the border, you see a little border that it's a gray darker than the gray that it's outside. So let's use again the color method, and let's hover on this particular gray and copy from it. And now we can use it as the box. The CSS of the box is getting bigger, so I'm gonna use 2 lines instead of 1. There. 2 lines. Now I'm gonna add a 3rd line for the border. 1 pixel solid and this color. Save. And let's try. There we go. There you see the border. Remember that if you add more and more space here, it doesn't matter. The computer is gonna ignore it. Also, if I put it one below each other like some people, it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's just that I like to put it in the same line. The other thing that we need to add, it's around border radius. Let's say 5 pixels. Because I'm seeing now we have the same little rounded border here that they have here. Actually, ours is bigger than theirs, but it's okay, it still looks good. So the last thing, because it's already looking pretty close to our Instagram, will be to, for example, he is using, they are using, or we are using in the original one, this is in bold, it's a lot black, more black than the rest. So for that, we just go here. Let me copy this text. The internet approves this cute dog. Here, I'm gonna put it in this one. And the breath code part, I'm gonna put it in strong. Strong. And now you'll see how it's more, it's the second one, right? So it's this one. You'll see how this turns black. There, it's more black, right? The font is also different. I don't know the font of this one, so let me just copy the font that I know that they have. If I right click on the text and open the inspector, It's telling me font family Helvetica. So let me add that also to the body. Save. And now if I refresh, it's Helvetica now. If you want to have the same pictures that they have, you just have to copy them. So let's copy them, copy image address. I know this is the second box, so I can include it in the second one. Also with the third one, I'm gonna do the same. Copy image address and paste it in the third one. And they have a fourth box, so let's do the same with the fourth box. Copy image address and paste it here in this URL. Save. And then if I refresh, now we have different pictures and it's looking very close to what we wanted. If we compare like this, there's still some differences, but it's small differences. Here we are missing something. We're missing just the date. That's the only thing we're missing. For the date, we gotta use a very tricky property in CSS. It's tricky at the beginning, but then it will be very easy. And that one is the float property. Because we know that the date, it's in the same line as my first photo, or this H2 that we have, but on the right side of it. So for that float, it's perfect. If we organize a little bit better this header, and we include now a new p tag saying the date, let's say it's 12/14, and we add the class date to it. Now let's copy and paste this to the other boxes. Oops, I did it in the header. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be. I know it's okay. It's perfect. It's in the header of the box. Yeah, it's here. Let's put it in the other boxes as well in an organized way using indentation. That is very important. And now if I refresh in my code, you will see the date, but the date it's below, because remember that a p tag is displayed in block. That means that it takes the whole line. If I don't want it to display block, I can use the float property. So let's add that float property now. I'm gonna say to div, no. Yeah, I'm gonna say to the box header, specifically to the date. So here I'm saying that I want CSS to find all the elements with the box class, and then inside of them, the elements with the header class, and then inside of those header class elements, I want the elements with the class date, and I want them to float right. Float right. If I save and reload, you'll see how now it's on the right, but it's still this H2 is taking the whole line. If I swap the position of them and I put first the date, then the title, I think it's gonna work. Let's see. It's still not working. So what I can do here is to also to use the H2, I can make it display inline. Let's see what happens if I do that. Display inline. Or inline block, maybe. Okay. I know what wasn't working. It's really working, but we also need to remove the margin. If you inspect here, you'll see how it's in the same position, but the margin, it's pushing him down. So let's remove the margin from the date, and that will fix the issue. Margin 0. Save, and then we refresh, and there we go. Now we have the date on the right. And I think now we have covered everything from the exercise. Oh, what is this? Let me fix this. Oh, this is not something that we need to fix. It's just that the image, we'll see that in a different exercise. The image has a bad proportion because it's very wide, and that is making the image to leave a lot of space from the top and from the bottom. And for that, if we try to fix it, it's gonna be more complicated. It's not just adding, for example, if I add here to the image also hate 100%, you'll see how it doesn't get fixed because it can calculate the hate. So the way of doing that, it's gonna be shown in a different exercise that requires one of two possible techniques, and we'll see them in a different exercise. For any other tutorials like this one, just go to projects.breathecode.de and you'll see the list of projects here, and click on any of the ones that have the video link like this one, the postcard example here. Thank you very much for listening.